I've been watching all of these videos about Medicaid being cut or eliminated because of this 880 million in required cuts being demanded of the Department of, or the Committee of Energy and Commerce, or the other way around. So I pulled out the PDF and started reading through things. And then I went online to go look at all of the different things that this committee covers. And this is what I found. And you may not like me for this, but hear me through the entire video before you just throw a tantrum at me. So as you know, Bobby Kogan, and he's the senior director of the federal budget policy. He was with the Biden-Harris White House previously and was originally an advisor for the Office of Management and Budget. He says that 880 billion would have to require Medicaid funding cuts. Specifically, he's quoted as saying that there's not enough money that this committee has jurisdiction over to achieve 880 billion in savings if they don't go after Medicaid or Medicare. And I agree with that assessment, but I don't think it's coming in the way that's being purported. I'm seeing a lot of people saying that they're going to just directly cut Medicaid or Medicare, and that's not what's going on. Like, all of this money is not going to just come out of the Medicaid program. I think the Medicaid program by itself last year was like 560 billion. But I think you have to understand exactly what other programs this body covers that it manages. So as you can see here, their jurisdiction is extremely broad, but you'll notice there's a lot of things in here that the Republican Party does not agree with, like food, drug, device, and cosmetic safety, environmental protection, climate change, renewable energy and conservation, broadcast, cable TV. They're beefing with them. They clearly don't give a shit about motor vehicle safety or consumer protections. But what I'm trying to say is that this 880 million is not directly coming out of Medicaid. But I'm not saying they're not going to fuck with it in a very catastrophic way. Let's look at the budget that they're submitted. Just take a look right there at number 4, Committee on Energy and Commerce. This is what everybody's been floating around the internet. But pay very close attention. It says, shall submit changes in laws within its jurisdiction. So all those things I just showed you, they're going to be trimmed down, obviously. And by at least 880 billion. You may have also noticed up top above at number 3 on education and workforce, 330 billion they're expecting in cuts there too. But oh look, the Committee on Financial Services only has to worry about $1 billion. How fucking convenient. Regardless though, with that said, I think that we need to have some very important perspective here. They are absolutely going to be cutting Medicaid, but they're going to be doing it not just in like a slash of funding. When they say to reduce spending and everything, they don't just mean slashing funding. They're talking about changing the rules of the game. So let's say, for instance, a lot of them are putting a work requirement in. This will naturally make people earn an income that disqualifies them from Medicaid. And I guess force them over to the ACA system maybe? Because I know a lot of employers, they're not carrying the same level of insurance that they used to. And I know, before you tell me, well, they're getting rid of the ACA, I understand. Just hear me out. Follow me through this process. On top of that, they could cut significantly the negotiated rates that they have with providers, which means that there's going to be even more providers who will not accept Medicaid as insurance because they're literally taking a loss. I mean, I don't think people understand that your doctor, he gets squeezed 2 different ways. First, he's got, the negotiated rate with Medicaid services, and governments are notoriously cheap, right? They don't want to pay hardly anything for services. And then you also have the big business corporate insurers, right? And they are constantly nickel and diming and denying claims and everything else with your provider. But that's neither here nor there. Let's get back to this whole Medicaid thing. I think it's really interesting part of their strategy. They hate the ACA, but to keep people pacified about removing millions of people from the rolls by disqualifying them through forcing them to work. They're going to put them on the ACA, and you're going to think, oh, well, it's okay. It's the same difference because I got the subsidy, so I don't have to pay shit for the year. Except for the fact that they have no intention of renewing the ACA federal subsidies in 2026. So what's their strategy? What's their plan? Are they really thinking these tax cuts are going to encourage employers to increase medical benefits and offer affordable insurance to employees? You and I all know employees love to say, hey, have 40-hour availability and we're going to give you a 20-hour schedule to work. Yeah, that's not the case at all. That's not the case. They are literally pulling a bait and switch right now. MAGA thinks that, oh, yeah, it's just a bunch of freeloaders on Medicaid. And I think many of you aren't thinking about your Nana, your grandma, your aunt, your neighbor's children, any of that. We're thinking about how emergencies arise where people are literally unable to take care of themselves health-wise, and they can't afford it either. Then you see RFK just on the horn the other day on TV, and he's talking about how he plans to make those deep cuts to SNAP because he doesn't like, well, not SNAP itself, but he really wants to go after the free lunch programs at schools because he doesn't like the fact that they're feeding toxins to the kids and they shouldn't be subsidized for that. Again, this is a man who's probably upset that kids are eating chicken that has hormones in it and the milk is pasteurized. He wants them to have that nice, chewy, Listeria Ebola-filled raw milk. Fact is, if you want healthier food options in school, you need to increase the lunch budgets. RFK just doesn't seem to understand the luxury of healthy organic food. It's a luxury in this country. Nobody can afford it. And then, of course, we see the slashes that they're doing. At least $330 billion to the education department. You know how y'all are bitching about these skilled immigrants coming in taking jobs, right? You're mad that America First is not happening. How is defunding education grants for everyday Americans helping you all climb up the ladder and compete? It's not, because again, they're rigging the game. Immigrant workers are cheaper than American educated workers. You are setting yourself up to fail. What part of this don't you understand? So yeah, basically Medicaid's going to have cuts by kicking a bunch of people off the rolls and slashing how much a provider can negotiate. And they're going to make you feel like everything's going to be okay, though, because you're going to go onto the ACA and enjoy federal subsidies through the next, what's left in the year, 8 or 9 months. And then they're going to discontinue those subsidies, and they don't even have a fucking plan in place to help the working poor who fall in that affordability gap. Do you know what it's like to only make like $2,000 a month and you won't qualify for a subsidy for care, but you need to pay at least $500 to $600 a month for health care? Not even counting like your medication costs? No dental, no eye care, just basic go to the doctor when you've got the flu. Yeah, this isn't them like defunding Medicare. This is like even worse. President's been in office for a month soon. Where's his fucking health plan? The man has had since 2016 to present a health plan. Nothing. How are you not scared about this? You know how many people are going to go off Medicaid because they disqualify because the government feels like they can't work? This is literally the unalive panels you all tried to accuse the ACA of creating. Grandma's going to have to go work as a door greeter at Walmart. And you know what? There's going to be so many people who fall off Medicaid qualification and aren't ready yet to get onto Medicare or SSI, and they're going to have to try and find a job that they just don't have any skills or capability for. Good job. Excellent fucking job. Meanwhile, farmers for Trump are figuring out really the hard way too about USAID and how key that program was to ensuring that they could have somebody to sell their crops to. And with cuts to food stamps and Medicaid, that demand just got even lower for your products, your crops. Is that worth it? Is it really worth it? This is what happens when you run a country like a business and you have no empathy. You're literally going to cost lives. And not just Democrats and liberals or immigrants or anybody you don't like. It's going to be everyday citizens that are God-fearing and Jesus-like yourself. FAFO.